Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any art.
Welcome to TLBTV, Eradicating Programmed Ignorance. Tonight, our show is The Standard of Care, a discussion with Dr. Daniels. And before we do that, let me go through a short preface and a little bit of information about this fine individual. There are two distinctive types of people in this world: those who follow and those who lead, or those who accept blindly and those who question. This may be a philosophy that can be tolerated in many professions and in some even desired, but not in the medical profession. It would seem that if you question the medical authority or the pharmaceutical overlords in America today as a doctor or a medical professional, you immediately put your career on the line, even or especially if you are right. All this in spite of the dangers and harm, okay, the set standard of care may be exposing millions of people to. People who trust and depend on their doctors to keep them healthy, and in a rising number of cases today, alive. Today we are privileged to have, a discussion with one of those who dared to question the overlords, Dr. Jennifer Daniels. Please read her story, and I will make sure that that link gets out to everybody. It's in an article that is on the Liberty Beacon. And we will continue with this discussion, the true standard of care in America and most of the industrialized world today. Dr. Jennifer Daniels graduated from Nottingham High School in Syracuse, New York in 1975. Compared to me, she's a youngin'. Dr. Daniels then attended Harvard Radcliffe College. She was distinguished as a National Merit Achievement Scholar and a Radcliffe National Scholar. After majoring in biology, she received her BA degree with honors. Dr. Daniels entered the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. At the same time, completed her studies at the Wharton School. She received her medical degree, MD, and her MBA, and concurrently, actually, at the end of that 4-year period. Dr. Daniels, how are you today, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've seriously been looking forward to this discussion. What I'd like you to do, in order to get this discussion started, there is, and you and I just discussed this, there is this absolutely brilliant breakdown of a little bit of what I just discussed, where you went to school, what you studied, and it goes forward to you becoming a doctor, you practicing, and then what happened. I don't want to spoil this for anybody because I feel you could probably tell this story much better than I can, and it's a story our listeners and our watchers really need to hear from you. Once you get through that and take all the time you need, then we're going to start discussing what I call tyranny, but you have a totally different name for, and I like it. So let's start off with your path. How did you get where you are today, and what facilitated that?
Well, as you mentioned, I graduated receiving all of these distinguished degrees. And I returned to Syracuse, New York, basically a hero. And I had these degrees. I decided I wanted to open a medical practice in the inner city neighborhood where I grew up. So I promptly purchased an abandoned city block, built a modest medical office, one doctor office, and started practicing medicine. And prior to, just before my return to Syracuse, I had a personal health crisis, and I became vegetarian, and everything cleared up in 24 hours. And so I returned to Syracuse a vegetarian, purchased a city block, built a medical office building on it, and against everyone's advice, started practicing family practice medicine. And everything went very well. Because I'd been to Wharton, I had received direct instruction that insurance companies consider doctors to be the middleman, and they were not in business to pay doctors, and so I should not rely on them to get paid. And so I skipped the $100,000 lesson that most doctors entering practice have to learn the hard way. And so the practice did very well. It was a cash practice, people paid me. But in the first 2 or 3 years, I noticed that people were dropping dead. Now, not a lot of people, like 2 or 3. And so I would always go back and review these charts, see if there's something I could do to help people do better. And I noticed without fail, every single death was a person who was fully 100% medicated. They were 100% diagnosed. They were receiving the proper medications in the proper dosages. And many of them had even been to a specialist where I would just review their care to make sure that I was giving them the best available care. And this really bothered me. Especially about the second year, 2.5 years of this, I said, wait a minute, could it be that the therapy I'm giving them is causing this problem? And so then I said, okay, I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna give people a choice. Either the standard of care, which is the medical protocol I was trained in, or they could change their diet, eat some more vegetables, or they could take some supplements, or they could do nothing. And so everyone had this choice presented to them. And the death rate immediately went to 0. So after that, the death rate in the practice went to 0. And I said, this is even more startling. So now what about all these other patients that are receiving the standard of care? Should I still be offering that to them even? And so what I did then is I made sure I gave everybody a choice. Everyone knew that their medications were optional, that they knew what lifestyle changes or dietary changes they could do instead. And that was okay. Now, since the practice was okay in the ghetto, and there were, drug dealings and people getting murdered, I said, this is really bad for business. So I got involved, investigated the situation, and found out that there were certain patterns to the murders and certain patterns to things. And so I got the neighborhood organized, and we got drug dens demolished. And I demolished a total of 5. And the murder rate went from 18 to 0. Then, so meanwhile, I was still practicing medicine. And I had a full practice. I had 3 part-time jobs and 3 children. And I volunteered evenings occasionally. And so during the course of all this, the patients were using fewer and fewer drugs. So I found that I was writing, instead of 100 prescriptions a day, I was writing 1 or 2. And instead of admitting 10 people a year to the hospital, I was admitting 1 or none.
Oops.
Yeah.
I know what's coming, but I apologize for interrupting, but I know what's coming.
Yeah, so I had no idea what was coming. So I got a call from the hospital one day from the executive assistant to the CEO. And she said, Dr. Daniels, we realize not many of your patients are coming to our hospital. We'd like to know where you are admitting them, and we'd like to know what we can offer you so that you will send your patients to our hospital for admission and for their treatments, for their diagnostic tests. Because one diagnostic x-ray can easily be $10,000. And so they really wanted, and everyone knew I had a cash practice. Everyone knew if I sent you a patient, you were going to get paid. So I got this phone call from the hospital. I said, oh my goodness, you are my absolute favorite hospital. I would never use any other hospital. All of my patients are coming to your hospital. And she said, oh, and she hung up the phone. So then, then I got a phone call from the vice president of the local HMO. And he calls me and says, Dr. Daniels, we got a problem and we've got to handle it. I said, oh, sure, I'm all for helping out. And so he told me the problem was he's trying to sell insurance, or it's an insurance company. And some very large corporations will not offer his plan to their employees because his plan will not pay my bills in full. And because I'm not a participating doctor, and he didn't put it that way, he said, because I'm not a participating doctor in his plan. And so he says, I am prepared to send a courier to your office right now with the contract for you to sign. I want you to sign it, and the courier will bring it back. I said, oh, Mr. Executive, I'm sorry, I can't do that. There's a clause in your contract that says that I agree to provide care to your subscribers free of charge for a full year, as long as they continue to pay their premiums to you. And right now, I'm not in a position to offer your company that kind of credit. He says, well, I'm going to send a courier and I want you to sign that agreement. I said, well, I'm not going to sign it. And then I was going to say something else, like, you know, why? And hung the phone up. So I said, huh. So then my favorite drug rep came to visit. You know, drug reps, they have all kinds of gifts and great things. And she was an awesome drug rep. She remembered my kids' birthdays and bought them gifts and presents. I didn't even have to shop for them. I could just bring the gifts home from the office. I never forgot a birthday. She got to know my kids' hobbies and bought them things to help with their hobbies. It was just great. And so she comes in one day, and of course, my favorite drug rep, right? So I tell her at the front desk, oh yeah, sure, I'll see her. I don't have a patient right now, I can talk to her. So she comes in and she's stomping. You can kind of see the steam coming out of her ears. And she says, Dr. Daniels, we've got a problem. I said, oh my gosh, well, if we've got a problem, surely we can take care of it. There's no problem we can't solve, we'll solve it. I right, this is my gift machine. And so I opened the drug cabinet, like I always do with the drug reps, and show her where her drugs are on the shelf. And she says, problem is, this time last year, this month, you prescribed $3,000 worth of my drug. And this year, nothing, nothing. I demand to know what's going on. And so I said, well, here's your samples. I hand them out, and I certainly write those prescriptions. She says, well, you're not even prescribing my competitor's drug. Something's up, and I want to know what it is. And at that point, I said, you know what, you're going to have to leave. I can certainly discuss your drugs with you, but I'm not going to discuss your competitors. And so she stormed out of the office. And so at this point, I felt like something was, you know, kind of, I just a little uneasy. And then this $30 million bond issue showed up. And having an MBA from Wharton, I looked into it. Also, because it was affecting my patients. And so a $30 million bond issue that would raise their taxes would lower their disposable income and really affect me. So I was very interested. So I looked into it and I decided it was a definite bad deal. So I contacted all the local politicians and said, hey, this is really bad news. You guys should not vote for this one. And I said, Dr. Daniels, we're going to vote for this, don't worry. And I looked a little closer, and it turned out that it was a $30 million non-collateralized signature loan. So if you read the fine print, nobody had any obligation to repay this $30 million. And so there's even a loophole where the citizens wouldn't have to repay it. So I said, I know, I have an MBA from Wharton, I can sort through this. I'll let the bank know they're being robbed. And so I contacted the bank to let them know a $30 million bank heist was in progress. And the bank, of course, said, oh, you're just a doctor, how could you know? And so I gave them enough information, they looked into it, and they said, oh my God, it is a bank heist. And so they intervened, they stopped the whole process and did not make a $30 million loan. I found out after the fact that the governor had been bribed to make sure the $30 million bank heist went through. And so, of course, the governor does supervise the licensing board. So all he had to do was drop a dime, make a phone call, which apparently he did. And so they began the investigation. And the case they nailed me on was a case of a young person who came to my office, and I diagnosed with having diabetes right there, first visit, blood sugar 475. And in 1 week, with no drugs, he reduced his blood sugar by following my advice to 135. And the government felt that was the inappropriate practice in medicine. And
wait, hold on 1 second. I have to intervene here. Okay.
Yeah.
You just told me that you did something for a patient that most doctors couldn't have accomplished in that limited amount of time and without body harming drugs or narcotics. And
Right.
for that, they felt you needed to be investigated and chastised.
Oh, correct. Yes,
So
absolutely.
I've got this right?
Mhm.
I'm going to mute my mic while I laugh hysterically here.
So I thought at first that surely this was a mistake. And then I thought about it, I said, wait a minute, maybe they're out to get me. And so I called the medical board. I paid my dues to every medical association that asked me. American Academy of Family Practice, I was board certified. I had dues, I paid my full dues to them. The County Medical Society, the National Medical Society, AMA, every medical society that asked me for money, I paid, I joined. So I called the medical society. So I took my call and said, hey, it's the licensing board, so you have to do whatever they tell you. You don't need the patient's consent to release the patient's record. I said, okay. So I sent them a copy of the patient's record. And then they said, oh, this is really bad. You need a hearing. I said, oh my gosh. So then I realized I was in trouble. I mean, big trouble, unrelated to the case. And so I checked around and I told someone I needed the absolute best lawyer in town, maybe even a crooked one, whatever. I needed a really good lawyer. And so they recommended me to a lawyer who graduated from Yale, and his roommate worked in the licensing board. I said, great, that's what I need. So I went to this lawyer. I told him I think he needs to call his roommate and call in his favors and let me know how much it'll be, and that's what we have to do. He says, no, this is easy. Open shut case, you've done nothing wrong. So we go to the hearing. At the hearing, they ask me my name, my address, other identifying information, and say, thank you, we'll be in contact with you. And my lawyer says, well, wait a minute, where's the rest? Don't you get to ask some questions? So I said, no, we've got everything we need. And so long story short, they accused me of a pattern of inappropriate medical conduct, a pattern. I said, well, it can't be a pattern. It's only one patient. They said, okay. Then the inappropriate practice of medicine. And I said, okay, that won't stick. We're going to accuse you of non-cooperation for failure to allow us to review the other 5,000 charts in your possession. The charts of people unrelated to this case. So these are like non-vaccinators, political dissidents, right? Who else is going to come to my practice? So I said, well, look, if you guys are in the process of ruining my life, why have you ruined my patients' lives as well? So I just totally refused that. And so ultimately what happened was they gave me a suspension for the rest of my life, which is an unlawful penalty, among other things. A lawyer in Florida heard about my case, flew to New York, overturned the penalty on appeal. And the judges said, we don't know why you want to take this doctor's license, but this is not the way to do it. And they told the board how to do it. And then the board did that. And so they finally, on a technicality, they failed to receive a letter of some sort. And they said, because we did not receive this letter, you're in violation of your probation, and therefore we're progressing you to suspension. And then from there, they basically, said, look, you can either surrender your license or we'll revoke it. And I said, well, if I surrender it, will you promise me you'll never contact me again? They said, promise, Scout's honor. I said, okay, great, surrender. And I felt so relieved. And then a month later, I get a letter from the federal government, saying that I am on the do not employ list for Medicare, which means any institution or business in the United States that accepts any Medicare funding cannot employ me in any capacity, even as a janitor. So basically, I was busted down to a level less than that of a high school dropout. So then I said, okay, that's no problem. There's still a lot of jobs left in the United States that I could take. And then a month later, I get another letter from the federal government that I'm on yet another do not employ list. The second do not employ list, of course, is more global. And I said, well, okay, so I can't work in the United States. I could just start another business. So let me call up some buddies and go visiting and see if I can work up some kind of, whatever, venture. So I buy a plane ticket, go to the airport, only to find that I'm on the terrorist watch list. And at that point, I realized I had a problem.
Stop right there. You've got to know, because I'm sure you've looked at the Liberty Beacon or some aspects of the Liberty Beacon project.
Mhm.
You had to know that's going to throw red flags up for me everywhere. Okay. You are on a terrorist watch list because you wouldn't go along with the standards of care, which you, through scientific methods, had proven was doing more damage than actually putting your patients on good food, a lot of rest, exercise, some sort of regimen that didn't involve toxic medications. This makes you a terrorist. Okay, I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to interject one thing, and then I'd like you to continue. Most people out there can't seem to understand. And I think I've actually mentioned this to you, Dr. Daniels. When we talk about the most influence on the government, who owns the government in the United States of America? And I don't want to get too deep into this, but I have to mention this. Most people will immediately tell you it is the military industrial complex, because we're in a war here, we're in a war here, we're doing this, we're doing that, all over the planet. Nothing could be further from the truth. The most powerful entity, corporate entity, and the most powerful influence, the people who literally own the US government, is the pharmaceutical industry, who spend in excess of 500% more on buying, corrupting, and owning our leadership than any other corporate entity on the planet, including the military industrial complex. So you poked the wrong people in the eye. You poked the people in the eye who literally own Congress, the Senate, and our president. Now I'll shut up and let you continue.
Well, of course, I didn't see it as poking them in the eye. I was just trying to make a living helping my patients get better. So I didn't have this big global pattern to it. So I realized that I was in trouble at that point, and I needed to find another country. And so I was tossing and turning, and I was just so filled with fear that I was hyper vigilant all day, wondering when the government would send a representative to knock on my door again. And I couldn't sleep at night because I was worried that I might be abducted. And I was just one big 24/7 worry ball. And I decided, you know what, this is killing me. I can't live like this. So I got to get another country. And so I bought a ticket to Austria to check out Austria. And I would just stop people in the street and say, hey, how's it going? How do you like Austria? And everybody wanted to talk to me because I was obviously a tourist. And people say, it's okay. As long as the government doesn't know what you're doing, you're fine. And I'm like, no, I've been through that one. No, thank you. Then I went to St. Lucia. And in St. Lucia, I couldn't get a lot of details, but everybody was unhappy, very unhappy. I'm like, you know what? I don't need to go any place where everybody's unhappy. Then I went to Jamaica. And in Jamaica, things were a bit rough. Tourists were being kidnapped right at the airport. It was just very rough and dangerous. And it's not like I'm armed or I know self-defense or anything. So this is like a bit too rough for me. Then I went to Panama. In Panama, and people were just super nice, super, super nice. Weather was tropical. The currency was the US dollar. The time zone was Eastern Standard Time. So I said, cost of living was very low because by then I was destitute. So that worked out very well. And I selected Panama. And I came to Panama with 2 suitcases, left everything behind in the United States. Before I left, I put everything I owned on the lawn and had a sale, sold everything. And then I told my real estate agent to sell all the property, the office and my home, and just send me some papers if she needs signatures. And that's what I did. I just left.
I've got to tell you, the story is very unique. Now, the timeline and the things that have happened to you don't surprise me. They don't. I have written a vast amount of articles and done massive research on the pharmaceutical industry, the interconnections between, say, the FDA, the CDC, and the pharmaceutical industry. I've done a massive amount of research on the ailments that are suffered in this country today. I think I made a comment to you the other day, and I would like you to take that comment. And I'm not asking you to remember word for word what you said, but I'm sure your reaction is going to be basically the same.
Yeah.
I told you that I was born in 1954 into what was probably one of the healthiest and most vibrant societies on the planet. And today, by the way I look at it and by the statistics I see, we live in one of the, if not the sickest societies on the planet. And I qualified that with, we have the highest level of cognitive dysfunctions, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, ADHD. We have the highest level of autoimmune dysfunction. We have the highest level of diabetes. We have one of the highest levels of cancer, soon to be the highest level of cancer, but our children have the highest level of childhood cancer on the planet, and our elderly have the highest level of elderly cancer on the planet. It's just everybody in between that hasn't made it to number one first, and I could go on. Now, we are also the most vaccinated and the most drugged and the most fluoridated society on the planet. I would like you to tell me, where does coincidence leave off and its fact begin? Because my opinion of coincidence is that coincidence is the tool of tyrants and the belief of fools. So where do you stand on what's happened to us in 3 generations?
Yeah, it's been about that. Vaccines really didn't take hold in a big way, I don't think, until the 70s, 60s and 70s. And before that, you could get vaccinated, but it was really the wealthier people who could afford vaccines and who had a high level of belief in the system. And so vaccines then, actually as now, I think, are a mark of belief and submission. And that's really all it is. It's just like a primitive cult saying that you have to...
didn't really say that, did you? I've never heard it explained that way, but I promise you, I will plagiarize that in the future.
Okay. It's like a primitive culture rather, where you have everyone line up and the king has to put a slice on their forehead with a blade. And if you don't have that scar on your forehead, it shows that you're not a believer. And periodically you have to come and get yet another nick on your forehead, so to speak. And that is the most benign interpretation of vaccination. And it would be better, I think, if we were a primitive culture and all you had to do was get these marks or scars on your forehead showing your submission and obedience. But unfortunately, there's actually something in these vaccines, and it's not good at all. In my medical practice, I've been in practice for 10 years. We had people who refused vaccines. And personally, it's my opinion, always has been, that if you want vaccines, you should get them. And if you don't want them, you shouldn't get them. That's just about the size of it. In 10 years of medical practice, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency, and 4 years of working in the wilderness, I never once saw a patient with a condition that could have been prevented had the person been vaccinated. Not one.
Oh my God.
So that's a total of 1979 all the way till 2000. That's a lot of years.
I know we had a bit of a discussion prior to going live on the air. Did I tell you about the bill that is sitting in front of the Senate right now to force all veterans in this country to be fully vaccinated, whether they wish to or not, before they can enjoy the benefits that they've already earned? And most of these veterans are either PTSD or post-traumatic stress syndrome, or they're missing a limb, or they've got some form of debilitation due to their service, so on and so forth. But now the government is saying that in order for us to treat you, something you've already earned by offering your service to this country, all the way up to and including death, if that's what it was required, now we're not going to give it to you because you need to have 40 vaccines, and until you get them, you're not going to get medical treatment. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but in 1796, Thomas Jefferson made a quote, which is so apropos. The man must have had the most phenomenal crystal ball on the planet. And what he stated in 1796, well over 200 years ago, is that when the people, okay, let the government decide what food they eat and what medicines they take, their bodies will soon be in as sorry a state as the souls of those who live under tyranny. Here we go. We've got a government saying, you went and fought for 8 years. You're sick as a result of that. But unless you take vaccines, which we know can harm you in massive doses, we're not going to give you the medical treatment that you desperately need and you fought for your country and now you deserve. So here we sit at total odds with our government. You went through this in a much smaller way, in a bit of a microcosm, but basically you faced off against the pharmaceutical industry and the government. And here, now they're enforcing this on an entire caste, an entire sector of the population, veterans. How do you even feel about that?
Well, first of all, I think that there's really nothing wrong with what you've just said, except the way it's perceived. So, in other words, the care, the treatment at the VA hospital, which people feel they are entitled to, and I'm not going to take a position on that, is itself deadly. Medical care properly prescribed, given to American citizens according to the standard of care, is responsible for killing more or less 880,000 Americans a year. And I don't think it's reasonable to interpret access to that system as a privilege or right or even a benefit. I think it's a misnomer. And so if we then rename what you said, take the English translation, we would like to harm you with vaccines so that the harmful treatment we promise you will be even more effective in killing you sooner.
Now,
so that's really the statement.
That's the discussion you and I had several days ago, and the one that absolutely opened my eyes to reality. We know all of the issues. We see it in the news. How many people have died on the waiting list for VA healthcare, so on and so forth. We see that this is an organization, an agency that has absolutely failed in its mandate. So yes, in a lot of cases, to a lot of people, the VA is deadly. Okay, but there are some people that might get helped, and there are people out there ignorant of this who feel that is their only resort. That's their last resort to get the help.
For these people who are ignorant, their disease is their ignorance. And hopefully this vaccine mandate will deter enough vets from getting involved in the medical system that they may actually have the opportunity to really solve their problems. So I think that the barrier or deterrent should be accepted by vets as a sign of how deadly the therapy is at the VA, or really any medical therapy in the United States, and a sign to them to really abandon the whole thing. So in other words, if you send people out to war and they fight on your behalf and they return, how can you say you owe it to them to give them care that's proven to be deadly? And that's what the standard of care is.
Oh, so, ouch.
I think these people need to reevaluate their understanding. And this is how you keep poor people poor, sick people sick, and powerless people powerless, is you get them to value the very thing that harms them and creates their powerlessness.
Are you sure that you were trained as a doctor? Because I would swear to God that you were a sociologist or somebody who has a lot of political training or a lot of political historical training, because what you are saying keeps putting a smile on my face over and over and over again. Because as a doctor, you see things with a perspective that is unique. It puts you outside of the caste that you were trained to work within. You don't think like a doctor. And I really, really like it a lot.
Thank you.
I do.
Doctors are trained not to think. So if you think, then you're not a doctor, basically. Doctors are trained to follow the standard of care and to change what they do whenever the standard of care changes. And so basically, doctors are highly trained fashion models who put on a different fashion when the standard of care changes. That is a doctor. And the more certified your doctor, the more trained he is, the more letters after his name, the better a fashion model he is.
When you consider that the medical system in this country is the biggest killer of Americans, beyond any doubt in this country, whether we're talking about, excuse me, FDA approved pharmaceutical drugs, how many people do they kill each year? Or a trip to the hospital, in which case they're misdiagnosed, or they catch a staph infection, or
No, they're properly diagnosed and properly treated, and they die as a result of the proper therapy. This is the propaganda out there that it's incompetent doctors, it's poorly treated, poorly trained doctors that are killing people. That is not the case. It is well-trained doctors following the standard of care, doing what they're supposed to do, doing what they're trained to do. They're responsible for at least 90% of the patient deaths.
my God, why didn't I meet you 5 years ago? I swear to God, the way you put things into perspective it's just, and it's not hard to understand what you're saying. But again, when we throw the it's 750,000 people a year die from hospital related whatevers. And we're talking about close.
It's a big number.
Right. And we're talking about how many hundreds of thousands die from FDA approved pharmaceutical drugs.
Well, the number for 2014 is 117,000, and that number is from the FDA website, report of adverse drug events that led to death. So this is a number on the FDA website. People complain about the need for research and to investigate. There is no need. The government is keeping tabs on all these deaths. They're tracking it, and it's increasing according to plan.
But
so don't worry.
There is one little thing I wanted to throw in on that, because I have done massive research on the FDA and the CDC when I do my vaccine studies, when I do my pharmaceutical studies. Actually, I've talked to several doctors, and the doctors have told me, not you, okay, and not people that I actually wanted to interview, but having phone conversations to find out just what they knew about vaccines. Not that they were supposed to give them, but what do you actually know about what's in them, adverse reactions, so on and so forth. And I have been told by 4 out of 5 of those doctors that I know much more about vaccines than they do. Now, that's a sad state of affairs. That's a very sad state of affairs right there. When a doctor says you actually know more about the vaccines than I do. But
exactly. We are not told what's in those vaccines. And I would tell anyone who would accept any injection from any doctor that that doctor does not know what's in that needle. He has no clue. And that should, by itself, make you pause. And, you know, here's a doctor, even an individual, and they're giving you an injection. They have absolutely no idea what is in that shot. And we're deliberately not told what's in that shot. And we are told that we must give that shot. The government's looked into this. The shots are okay. Yes, people are harmed by the shots. We have this little fund for those who are harmed. The shots help more people than they harm. And so the government decided it's a trade-off. And overall, the health of the society would be improved. But doctors are not told what's in that shot.
Okay. And again, I have gone through and done massive levels of research on this. But when we talk about the FDA, when we talk about the CDC, we talk about organizations today whose credibility in the eyes of individuals such as myself and so many other people who have done some research is all but shot. When we find out that the actual studies that they have done have been withheld, proving okay, that African-American children who are given the MMR vaccine, okay, prior to 36 months of age, have a 240 to 360% increased chance of getting autism. This is a CDC study conducted by them 14 years ago, and the American public was never told about this.
Now, the MMR vaccine, just for the audience to understand, is recommended to be given at 18 months.
Right. But
right. So if you get it before 36 months, which is when you're supposed to get it, your chances of autism triple. So just for that background.
Absolutely. So, okay, if the African-American population, and that's for African-Americans, it's an increased risk, but there is also an increased risk for children of any race whatsoever.
Right.
It's just a higher risk for African-American children, okay? So 14 years of hiding a study conducted by the CDC themselves, actually having a burn party where they took all of the information, put it in a trash can, and a whistleblower came forward and gave us an explicit description of this, burned all of the study data in a trash can. He hid a copy and brought it forward 14 years later with all of the records and everything. How many children in this country, a country that suffers the highest level of autism and the highest level of vaccine exposure on the planet, how many children in this country in the last 14 years didn't have to have autism and spend an entire lifetime crippled, and their parents having to deal with and take care of them for an entire lifetime, and the cost and the time and the emotions and the sickness and the ruined lives over 14 years? That number easily broaches the millions. How can we have any trust or any faith in the CDC, whose motto is helping people and saving lives 24/7? Bullshit! Nothing could be further from the truth.
So I think to help understand this or make it a little more transparent, it would be helpful to understand what the CDC and what the FDA are there for.
That's what I was hoping you would do.
Yeah, the Food and Drug Administration is, that's what it says, Food and Drug Administration. And it's created to create a situation just like, I believe you said, Thomas Jefferson warned against. So the FDC was there to create a situation where American people are totally dependent upon the government for the food they eat and anything they may use for healing, and to create a debilitated, weakened, easily governed population. That's the FDA's job. Then you have the CDC's job. CDC is a Center for Disease Control. And the implication is that these diseases are all contagious, when in actual fact, most of these diseases are caused by environmental chemicals and contaminants. And so the CDC is there to throw people off the track, to get them to mistrust their fellow citizens, to believe or think their disease was given to them by another citizen, rather than by some environmental action or contamination or poisoning. Or even worse, there's the FDA to conceal the poisonous chemicals in the food, which some people eat, it makes them sick, and then the CDC turns around and gives a contagious name to it. So these organizations work together, and they are apparently accomplishing their task. The very fact that people feel they're corrupt, the very fact that people feel these agencies are not functioning properly, speaks volumes to the level of misinformation and misunderstanding among citizens. And you just can't possibly defend yourself. You can't possibly set yourself free if you don't even recognize where the hits are coming from.
So this all drops back to, again, what is the biggest influence in this country and indeed on the planet, and that is the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. And basically,
so I disagree. It's okay for me to disagree.
Oh, I wish you would.
So I disagree.
Okay.
I used to think this. I used to look for what's the power behind the government? Who's behind the curtain? Who's pulling these strings?
No. I'm not talking about the ultimate power. I'm talking about corporate influence.
You don't even have to look. You don't even have to look beyond the lawmakers themselves. All we have.
Oh, you got me.
Just disagree.
No, I agree with you.
The government itself simply wants to stay in power. And what better way to stay in power than to weaken your citizens, make them feel dependent, make them feel helpless, and make them feel they need the government to tell them what to do. They need the government to take all of their money and give them back what they need so they don't have to make any of these complex decisions. And when you take someone's IQ from 130 and bust it down to 70 or 50, you pretty much got a population of people who want to follow, who don't want to lead, who don't trust themselves. And that's what this vaccination is all about. These autistic people, they're not an accident. They're the best. Because what do you have as an autistic person? You have somebody, at some point in time, their parents are going to demand that you put a chip in their brain, that you control them centrally. Or they're going to become a good organ donor. That's what those autistic kids are good for. What about the rest of the kids that didn't get autism? The other 95% of the population, their IQs are permanently stunted. I mean, believe it or not, I think I'd be a lot brighter if I hadn't had vaccines. I didn't have very many, and I got them pretty late in life. But that's what vaccines do, is they make you not so bright. And there's a definite association between the flu shot and Alzheimer's in older people.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's the purpose. It is deliberate.
Yes.
And you can say it's thimerosal. You can say it's the monkey cells, whatever. There's enough stuff in the vaccine to blame, but that's not the point. The point is, it's there, and it's there to compromise the population, to make them easy to govern. That is it. The other thing is, once you get the population showing up every single year for shots, you can literally exterminate whoever you want by where you send the vial.
So you wouldn't go along with what so many of us say, and that the basis for a lot of this is it is not profitable to cure a disease. It is profitable to continue to treat the symptoms.
No, I thought that for a while, but it didn't add up. It didn't add up.
So would you expound on that?
Is if a drug company ever did come out with something that ever did get anybody healthy, the government would take them out, put them out of business. These drug companies, I mean, not to let them totally off the hook, but if they did try and do what people like you think they should do, which is get somebody healthy, they would be out under keister. Because it's all about the government maintaining and keeping control. The same reason you rig the voting machines, that's the same reason you want to keep everyone sick or dumbed down or stupid, so that you can stay in control.
The problem with that argument is, and I'm not disagreeing with you in any fashion, so don't think I am, but the problem with that argument is, in a constitutional republic, we are the government. So in fact, since this government now, Princeton University in 2014 published a scientific paper, which was actually done in conjunction with 2 other universities, whereby they stated blatantly that the United States is no longer ruled in a democratic process. It is now run by an oligarchy. It is run by a corporatist elite. Princeton put this paper out. And believe me, I don't think they would have done it had they not done a lot of research and could be able to back up what they said. But we've known this for a long time. So in a constitutional republic, we are the government. So in order for them to stay in power, they must dumb us down. They must make us sick. They must cut back on the numbers. There was a deficit in childbirths in this country last year of 310,000.
Now, do you know why that was?
I do, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Women have been brainwashed to believe that pregnancy, having a child, equals poverty. These women are lining up for abortions in such numbers. Black women abort more than half of their pregnancies.
Ouch.
Yes.
I
So for every Black kid born, there's about 1.75 abortions. That's number one. For the white ladies, they've got it even worse. They have access to so-called birth control, but even worse, they've been eating processed foods for several generations, and many of them are actually sterile. So if you look at the government tracks this too, is pregnancies versus abortions versus live birth by racial group. And so Blacks are where whites were a generation ago. So a generation ago, white women were getting pregnant like anything, and they were having abortions. This generation, they're basically sterile. I mean, they can have a kid, occasional pregnancy, there's a few abortions, but by and large, their ability to have babies is seriously compromised. You have the white male whose sperm count, no secret, is less than half what it was in 1950.
Yes.
So, yeah, you got a couple there that's not in danger of getting pregnant anytime soon. Blacks, because they entered the processed food thing and the later, after the civil rights movement, their fertility is declining, but the women are accelerating this decline by having abortions. And so basically, the Illuminati, if you want to call them that, are not lining anybody up and telling them, if you don't get this abortion, we're going to shoot you. They have done all of this with indoctrination. Exactly.
Yes.
And if you vaccinate people, they're far more suggestible and far more manageable.
I've got to tell you something. There's a real good thing right now that there's probably thousands of miles separating us, because all I want to do is give you a big hug. What you are saying is so spot on. We might not agree with exactly how things are being done or exactly what the mechanisms are, but we do agree on what the final goal is, what the hope of accomplishment is by an elitist caste. My God. And the thing of it is, to hear this from a doctor it absolutely blows me away. This is why I wanted you on this show today. You don't sound like a doctor. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy for that, Dr. Daniels. I really am.
You're welcome.
We're down to about 5 minutes, okay? So what I would like to do is give you a couple of minutes to say anything that you would like people to hear on this venue. And for everybody listening, I am going to hound this lady into my grave to make sure that we get more contributions from this fine individual to the Liberty Beacon Project as things go along, because you are a virtual wealth from an individual nobody would expect to hear these things from. So please take a couple of minutes and put out any message you feel people need to hear right now. And you know already on this venue, don't be afraid to say anything.
I'd like to say people are very concerned about their freedom. And I want to tell people, you already have your freedom. These chains you're complaining about are about as strong as spaghetti. And it sounds stupid, but really the slavery is totally in your mind, totally and completely in your mind. Like these people who are getting abortions, who are ignorantly killing their babies unnecessarily. If you're pregnant, you can have that baby at home for a cost of about $10. The expense of your pregnancy is basically eating more food. And as far as feeding the kid, go ahead and breastfeed. I mean, you've really got all this power. And it's because you've outsourced your power that you are powerless. And so you need to start taking a look, and I'll tell you where to start. Look at every single bill that you pay every month, each and every one of those. And those bills are what's keeping you poor and keeping you enslaved and keeping you powerless. And if you just figure out a way to stop paying those bills, you'll be so free and you'll be so wealthy, it'll be literally beyond your dreams.
All right, I got to tell you something. I wish it was that easy, but you made a comment.
I did a whole radio show telling you exactly how to do that. So they can go to my website, vitalitycapsules.com, click on replays, and the title of the show is Humans, the New Cash Crop.
Oh no, see, the problem is I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you 110%. When I say I only wish it was that easy is because I need to go back to a point you and I already covered, and that is the reduction due to the fluoride, the vaccines, the drugs.
No, you need to go there.
Wait. Oh, but let me finish my comment, okay? The reduction of intellect and the massive propagandization of a society of over an entire lifetime, switching from the way they think to the way you know they should be thinking. I wish it was a lot easier than it actually is.
It's
now,
getting
they
easier.
can start by going to your website. I would recommend that, because I went to your website today and it was like I was on a playground. I mean, I really enjoyed my time on your website, and I love the picture. You need to go see the picture of Dr. Daniels there. Great picture. But anyway, the point here is it's shows like this that allow us to get this information to them and allow them, or we plant that, we germinate that seed.
Exactly. That's all this did is a seed, to know that it's possible, to know that, 7 years ago, I was destitute, terrorist watch list, 2 do not employ list, fled the United States with 3 suitcases, and now I'm working on the internet doing just fine.
Well,
Happy, healthy, everything's great.
Well, I've got to tell you, it was a pleasure. we're just about done here. We've probably got about 30 seconds left. And I've got to tell you, tonight, I wish I had a 2-hour show because this has been an absolute pleasure for me. I really, really enjoy talking to you. We're going to do this again. You will be an asset to this project because I'll beg you and beg you and beg until you have no choice. But please understand how much you're appreciated. And we so much enjoyed you coming in tonight. Thank you again, Dr. Daniels. You are an absolute pleasure. And for everybody watching, we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you for being here.
Okay, bye-bye.